Welcome to an early morning episode of the greatest podcast in the history of Jiu-Jitsu in its price range, which is free, so it's not too bad. We'd like to welcome Travis Thomas, the Mantis, to the studio. What's going on, Travis?
Not much, man. Thank you guys for having me.
It's good to see you. Omar, good morning.
Morning.
Thanks for making the trek down.
Yeah, just you woke me up this morning out of a slumber, and you're like, "Get the fuck."
Where are you? I got here early too. I got up at 5 and I came down here, and that new bed, I don't know, dude. It's not working on the back.
Gotta break it in, man.
Yeah, I gotta get it going. I got this new bed that has all these weird adjustments and settings, and I thought it was gonna cure my back issue, but it's like been a 50-50.
But you don't do any stretching or yoga or anything.
I mean, I roll out on the roller, and I got one of those Theraguns.
Okay.
I've been cracking on it.
Yeah.
And I have a lacrosse ball, but yeah, I don't know, dude.
Damn.
So I got up early, came in. It's like, I'm going to get everything set up. And I still didn't get it all set up. I started doing all kinds of shit. You know how it is.
Yeah.
That's how it goes, man, for sure.
Yeah. Hey, let's have a quick word from our sponsors, and then we'll be right back with Inside BJJ.
Being able to complete the climb to mastery requires the proper nutrition. This is why it's important to take in a potent blend of electrolytes that is in tune with your output and brings strength to your goals. This potent blend is only found in Salt Electrolytes. Salt targets your depleted electrolyte levels with a boost of hydration and health. It gives your body the baseline recovery it needs.
Make sure you check out Salt. Use the discount code INSIDEBJJ15 at checkout. Save 15%. We just had Riley Rogers from Salt on the show about 2 episodes back.
Yeah.
And he tells it's a pretty cool story how he actually started the company, because he started formulating this in his own kitchen. And just, he's like, I had no idea about flavor profiles or how anything worked. And he said the first pass that he made when he was trying to make lemon lime was like the most putrid thing that he had ever made in his life. But check that product out. It's been a real good boost for us here. So, Inside BJJ, Travis Thomas. Travis, I saw you recently at Subversive. You were on a pretty exciting fight card, right? There's a lot of things were popping off there. You have PGF Season 7 coming up in just a couple weeks. How are you feeling about your performance at Subversive, and how you feeling about PGF coming up?
Yeah, man. I feel like I love Subversive. I love the combat jiu-jitsu idea, just the game that you play with it. I will say Subversive is kind of like bittersweet. The last 3 times that I've done it, I've won all my matches for the team events, and then just like so happened to be on the losing team. Oh. So like great experience for myself, sad experience like not getting the money, but that's okay. Coming up for PGF, I feel super good. I've been putting on a lot of weight. Like once the 185 season was done and they said they were going to do the 205 season, I've just been like trying to gain weight and put on weight. So I'm walking around now like 215 to 218. Feeling healthy, feeling good. We've like implemented a competition class at 10th Planet Decatur that like is solely focusing on the big competitions that we got coming up, and I feel like I could really see a big change in my game, just like game plans and like styles of playing jiu-jitsu.
How comfortable is it to be gaining weight?
I mean, it's super awesome just because like I've always been like I don't want to say smaller dude. I feel like I'm relatively big. Like I'm like 6'3.5" and 200 pounds walking around, even when I was fighting at 185. But like I've always been like a slimmer guy, like mostly muscle, low body fat. It feels really good to gain weight. Like I for sure feel more dominant on the mats. I will say that I have noticed though, like not much, but a little bit of my flexibility has gone away. Just like small amounts of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, because if I was tasked with gaining weight, I feel like I would gain weight by eating Big Macs, Baconators, and just make a bunch of excuses. I got to put this weight on. It's for fighting, you know? How are you going about it? Are you doing any of that, or are you just still trying to eat clean? You're just eating more?
Yeah, sadly, I am pre-diabetic. So
you can't do that.
yeah, well, I have been doing that, and that's why I'm pre-diabetic. But I went and got my blood work done, I don't know, probably 8 months ago, and like found out that I was pre-diabetic. So I had gone online and just like I've done the in-body test, so I know what like my basal metabolic rate is, and I've like calculated how many calories I need a day to gain weight. And then so my dad like doesn't have tons of money to sponsor me through the sport by giving me money, but he sponsored me by making me food every day. So I like wrote him out a diet of what I was trying to do,
Nice.
and then he fulfills that, and I just pick it up every morning.
What a great idea, too. You know, that's actually better than a gear company going, we'll give you a free rashie.
Yeah,
It's like,
absolutely.
I can't eat a rashie, dog. Like, send me a turkey sandwich or something.
Yeah.
That's actually a very cool idea if you know a competitor or somebody that's getting after it in the jiu-jitsu world and you want to help them.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
for sure way to help them.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then he like writes me a note every day, which is pretty cute.
Dude.
I like my dad, so
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's a great way to build like a long-lasting connection with your kids.
yeah, my dad, he's always been super supportive. So when I was younger, I played a lot of baseball, and I just know I probably started around 5 because I was super crazy as a kid, and my parents were like, "Get him the fuck out the house." But yeah, man, I don't like actually remember, but I know the stories of just like me and my dad pitching out in the front yard until it was dark, just every single day. He'd get off work and we'd go outside, pitch, hit. So,
Were you a big kid? Were you tall as well when you were a kid?
yeah, I like I would say until like 10 or 11, I was a big kid, and then I stopped growing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so in like the 8th grade, I was like 4'11". Yeah, my biggest sister was bigger than me, and then like through 9th and 10th grade, I got to like 6 foot, and then so I think my 9th to 10th grade summer, I grew like 7 inches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wild. Yeah, that's a cool thing you do with your dad. I do something with my son Nate, a little similar, but we have a sketchbook and we draw sketches to each other. And Nate's nuts, so his art's all over the place, which is actually really funny.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see. It's interesting what people write, and it's also interesting to see what they draw. It's like, what is in your head?
Man, drawing's always been one of those things I've been super jealous of people. Like, I get images, and I'm like, fuck, if I could just put that bitch down on a piece of paper, man. Like,
Now you have AI.
yeah.
The problem with AI is like it'll give everybody 7 fingers. You're like, no, 5 fingers, please, just 5 fingers. You hit on something that I thought was interesting, and you talked about having a class or a practice that focuses specifically on the bigger tournaments and those formats, and the boost that you get from implementing strategic sessions where you practice the strategies based on the format. Can you go into that a little deeper? Are we talking things like the ADCC format or potentially the PGF format or?
Yeah. So, like 10th Planet Decatur is obviously a pretty established gym. I feel like most people know Brandon McCatherine, but the gym's kind of just more or less like people know Brandon and they come to train under Brandon. So like athletes, it's not a huge, I'd say like it's not a huge focus of the gym. And that's probably true for like a lot of gyms, but here lately we've had like a lot more competitors who are really getting serious. So Scaff at one point was teaching classes, and he stepped down to be the coach, where he was like just taking athletes to competitions and, you know, working with them in the off time. Me and him done like tons of one-on-one work with my MMA. But just like, I think after the first Subversive I just came back and was like, hey man, like I'm really like, this is what I want to do professionally. And I look to be a world champion one day. And like, these are the things that I think I need. I would also like your input. And then like, if we can implement that here, that would be awesome. If not, like I need to figure out how I could make the moves to make this happen. So like Scaff stepped up and he started this competition class. Like, yeah, just looking at the rule sets, like if we have ADCC coming up, or if we have like, even a smaller competition with that rule set, the class is just more designed on coming in there and looking at those rule sets and then playing games accordingly.
Yeah.
Like we're not going in there and he's teaching us a move by move, and then we're drilling it. It's like all live work and all live work, and then games on like, this is the idea, or this is overtime rounds. This is what we're looking to do. Yeah.
Setting up certain scenarios perhaps. Yeah, I think that's real important to get athletes lots of reps in those circumstances, at least you can never identically mimic the intensity of the actual competition.
Oh, yeah.
But you can add the elements that are needed that for you to get reps in those scenarios over and over and over, which is super important.
Yeah. I think, like, especially people who don't compete don't understand that idea. Like, they come to a class and they'll go 100% on somebody and they think, like, oh, dude, I would smash everybody.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's a totally different beast when you're
Right.
psyched up for a match and you got all this adrenaline running from you or running through you. I feel like it's just, man, it's a different game for real.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where being a professional comes into play in a different way, right? Because there's a lot, and I think my experience in jiu-jitsu, especially when I first started, there were not that many active competitors that were around. There were the big names, but there weren't that many tournaments.
Yeah.
So most guys did 3 or 4 tournaments, unless they were willing to like drive or go fly somewhere. If it was just like things you could drive to within a few hours, you did 3 or 4 tournaments, and that was your season. And you're like, yeah, man, I got it. But that's journeyman, you know, that's not even journeyman. That's hobbyist, you know,
Yeah.
that's hobbyist level. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you talk about, you know, marking days off on the calendar, like we're going to get ready for this event, and here's the plan to get ready for this event. And some of them are just events you pay, you show up, you do the thing, whatever happens, happens. Others are you show up, you have to do a press conference, you have to do interviews, you have to be on schedule. It's a whole other animal with other elements involved. And if you're trying to be a professional, there's a lot more to it than just showing up to Tuesday night class, going 100% on some blue belt, and then being like, "I whoop ass out here."
What do you guys think that is like with even something so small as like a naga or something? You get nervous, you get psyched up, you get juiced up. Like I don't understand. I mean, it's no different than rolling on the mats here. There's just more people there. So what do you guys think is happening in the brain at that point?
I think it's like a primitive thing. I think your body is just getting you ready for like a war scenario. It's the fight or flight. You're in like such a high state of consciousness that you just like react off of actions. In here, it doesn't matter how many times you get tapped. You can get sub 3 times around, and then you'll still finish out the 6 minutes.
Right.
So there's no consequences. And then I think like if you don't get nervous, it doesn't mean that you don't care, but like people who really care tend to get way more nervous. I think like GSP used to say you would throw up before every fight, and it's like that's just somebody who really cares about their craft. So for me, I feel like I get super nervous even if I have done all of the training that I can, and I feel like I am just like as much prepared as I can be for this tournament. I just really care to go out there and win.
Yeah.
And it's not just to win, but like I know what I can do. I know what kind of athlete I am. So I want to make sure that like I display that for people to see. And I don't want to have a bad showing.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because you had mentioned it's subversive. You're like, man, I wasn't exactly happy with my performance, but I thought you did great. I'm like, bro, like you won, dude. Like, hell yeah. You know, what is that in you that analyzes it at that level?
Well, I think one, that I'm a little crazy. I have like way too high expectations for myself. And this is something like I went and talked to like a therapist about. Not like every day I'm talking to him. This was just like one time I had a talk, and he was just explaining like a lot of high level athletes have like really bad expectations for themselves. So it's like, you know, you can look at yourself like, oh, I went to a tournament and I went 3-1. And that's like pretty good for some people.
Yeah.
But for like me, that's unacceptable. Like that's not how it should be. I should have went 4-0. I think like there was a lot of factors to subversive. I mean, I drove to California, so we had a 28-hour drive that we made over 3 days.
That's right.
The first night we stayed in the Ozark National Forest in some hammocks, which as a person of my size, that's not fun.
You know, I saw that picture on Instagram, and I'm like, did these guys just pull off the side of the road and like do a quick photo? Or, then I looked and I'm like, they look like they've been there.
Yeah, no, we most definitely just found a little cut off road, pulled off in there, set up our hammocks, and Yeah, that's not the move. It sounds so cool. And like a hammock nap is so nice.
Yeah.
A hammock sleep fucking sucks.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that was a factor. But I mean, that's no excuses. I felt like I had prepared a lot. I've been doing a lot of wrestling. I didn't know who I was going against coming into it, but when they said he was like a college wrestler, I just thought like, oh, I'm gonna smash this guy. And then just like I got out wrestled. I just didn't like that was what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still felt like the match, I never was in danger.
Sure.
But yeah, that's just not acceptable for me, I don't think.
I mean, I get it in the sense that if I'm on the mats and I'm training with a blue belt, let's just say, and then I got some things I'm trying to work on that day, and I can't do them, or I only did it twice, and one of the times it gave me problems, and I'm like, man, at the end of that round, I feel like I didn't quite get what I wanted, But on the competition level, I was always relieved. Any way I could get the win, I was like, I got it, baby.
I think it's like of course I was happy that I won, right?
Yeah.
Like I wasn't in my room just pouting about how
Trash
bad
and shit. Yeah.
how bad of a performance I had. But like on the big scheme, like that's not the performances that I want to have.
Yeah.
Again, I think it was exciting. Like I try to always be exciting. I always push the pace. So that's cool. But like I want to be like that Gordon Ryan style of like that Gordon Ryan level to where like I'm doing what I want to people, and there's just not really much that people can do about it. And like I feel like the past 3 or 4 competitions before that is kind of how it went. Like we had been implementing these strategies, and I've just been running through people. Like the first, like against Brad Snyder, we had just went over like the double arms above the head and either going to the back or finishing in the S mount. And then I ran that on him twice and just smooth. Like there was nothing that he could do about it. So that's kind of what I was looking for in that competition. Again, I'm like happy that I won, but
Yeah.
yeah.
You wanted certain things out of it.
What do you consider an exciting match? Like, is it that it goes back and forth and everybody almost, like one guy almost gets another guy and then the other guy almost gets the other one? Or like that just, it's exciting to watch one guy just dominate the other guy?
I think like we can all say that like the Andrew Tackett, Cade Rotolo match or whoever it was, like that's super exciting. I think for myself, like any pace or any push of action is what I'm looking for. So if one guy is dominating the whole match, that's super cool. But if one guy's dominating, and like some of Gordon Ryan's matches are pretty boring to where he's like just sitting, cooking somebody in mount. Like I understand what's going on, but it's like nobody wants to see that shit.
Yeah.
So like the Levi Leary Jones or whatever his name is, like I mean, his guard is incredible. Yeah. And for me as a martial artist, that's like, holy shit, that's pretty insane.
Yeah.
But most of his matches were boring because there was nothing. Like, I don't want to see somebody who's good at one thing and only pushes for this one thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like if you're a good leg locker, I understand like going for a leg lock, but if the dude's neck is open, then choke him out. Like, So I think like making sure that the game is being played is what I find exciting.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
I want to circle back to that because I got a follow up, but I just want to hit these comments real quick. Egg said, "This is live. This is live indeed, Egg. Yes." And he also followed up with, "Wow, I was just writing about Travis." Well, maybe you'll get some more material. Egg had sent me a text over the weekend and said, "Oh, I have the same bed that you have." And he gave me some tips about like adjusting it. So yeah. Like, this guy knows everything. Egg knows everything. He is the go-to guy. He's my source. I hit him up. What do you got on this? He's got something on everybody. He knows everybody. Super, super good dude. Let's see. What else has he got? PGF Season 5 Grapplers, No Gi, No Money was amazing. Seeing Travis and his family through the documentary was very compelling. That is true. And it does highlight your dad's in that as well, right? Yeah,
My
I
dad
do
and
remember
my
that.
mom's.
That's right. I do remember that.
Yeah, dude. If you know me, man, that's something I put a lot of time in is like my family. I don't have like tons of time because I do take this like a job. I mean, I train like I will miss a birthday, miss a wedding, miss a holiday for competing or training. But I really enjoy my family. Those are like the people that I strive to see and make time for. I don't got many friends. I got a girlfriend and like 4 or 5 dudes that I actually call friends. But yeah, my family's where it's at, man.
Tight circle.
Yeah.
And then Abe comes up with Travis has a complete game. He's a problem. Yeah. Yeah, Travis, you are a problem, actually. I remember the first time I met you in Decatur was a few years back, and you were already problematic. It's like, dude, this guy's. Everybody was kind of murmuring that you go with that tall guy, and you had I think you had Muay Thai shorts on or kickboxing shorts or something. Did you go with that guy with the fucking shorts over the fight shorts? Go with that guy, dude. Yeah. But it's really fun for me, and I get a big sense of enjoyment and fulfillment in a way watching other people come up and set goals and go yeah, I'm getting after it, and they are getting after it, and then you start to see that progress, and it's like, dude, that's pretty cool.
He's doing it.
Yeah, because overall, that's part of the jiu-jitsu community overall. Everybody has independent goals, right? Not everybody can be world champion. There's only going to be one world champion. But at the same time, the sport is being built up by everybody. Everything everybody's doing to kind of help each other get forward. So I get a big sense of enjoyment out of that. Now, if I was 25 and I was a world-class competitor, I would get more enjoyment out of kicking people's asses. But you got to manage the expectations. So I wanted to ask you this. You talked about working with Scaff, and I feel like Matt Scaff is one of these guys who's really, really, really smart when it comes to grappling. Well, everything else I also imagine seems like he's got a very good mind.
Yeah.
And he's a little bit unnoticed, I think. He gets some love, but strikes me as a very high level coach. He's super great at jiu-jitsu. Can you just talk about your experience working with him?
Yeah, man. Me and Scaff have actually become super, super, super good friends. So when I first started training, I started training 3.5 years ago. Yeah. It was February 1st of 2021. And when I popped in there, I don't think that I had I don't have the story jiu-jitsu saved my life to where when I started, before I started, I was
a
living on the
scumbag.
streets or anything. But yeah,
I was smoking crack.
Yeah, I most definitely just didn't have a lot of goals in mind. I had things that I wanted to do, but it was just kind of going through the motions every day. I had a job, I worked, and that was pretty much it. Well, when I started, I had seen the group of Scaff and Lindsay and Nikaya, and just this. It wasn't like they were excluding themselves from everybody, but that was just kind of their group, and I was like, oh crap! If I can get myself into that group, then I think I'll be doing good. Not because I thought they were cool; it just looked like they all were organized and had shit going.
Yeah, they were doing shit.
Yeah,
they were too.
Yeah. So about 6 months in, the the AFC, they had put a poster up for an MMA fight. And I had been doing jiu-jitsu competitions, and then I just signed up for the fight. And then I told Scaff hey, bud, I signed up for this fight. And he was like, what? I was like, yeah, the MMA fights that y'all put up, I signed up for it. And he was like, okay. So me and Scaff had started doing just one-on-one mitt work. And he's never done, he said he started training MMA when he first started doing martial arts, but he's never really done it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just did mats and held mats every Tuesday and Thursday, which brought us super close. And then he was my corner for all 6 of my fights. And then just throughout my jiu-jitsu career, he's been there for me. Scaff is a mastermind, man. He it's crazy. If you go into the gym, not right now because it's Sunday, but any day, Monday through Saturday, if you go into the gym after 11, he's sitting at his desk watching jiu-jitsu or watching some kind of MMA. And one, he does like to learn for himself. He's still trying to grow as a martial artist, but it's definitely for the guys in the gym, and he's watching the newest jiu-jitsu techniques or the newest MMA techniques so that he can share this knowledge with other people. I would say the reason that he's not really known is just like we were talking about before, man. He could really give a shit less if anybody knows who he is.
Yeah.
While he does want to be one of the best martial artists, it's more or less just for himself. He just really has a desire to be great, and that's he enjoys personal development. He'll tell you oh, I don't Travis, I don't care if you go to a different gym. I just want to see you get better. Yeah. And he 100% means that.
Yeah.
He does have a little podcast that's pretty popular that he does himself. That's pretty great. But I will say that while he is smart, I feel he talks in a way that you have to really listen.
Interesting.
Yeah, like he'll give you knowledge, but you have to be like willing to hear it.
Yeah.
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 I think me and Scav vibe together so good. Anything that he says, I feel like I pick up on, and yeah, we've had a really good relationship.
How important is it to trust that coach and to have a long-term coach, or at least a coach that's with you for a season versus this guy? I was with this guy for a couple fights and this guy for a couple, then I did one on my own? Or like how does that impact you as an athlete, and how important is it to be able to trust the coach?
I think like obviously every athlete's different, and some athletes don't need coaches. Some athletes are their own coach. I feel like for me, as a super dedicated athlete, it's hard for me to be super dedicated in my meal prep, in my sleeping and recovery, in my training, and then like also super dedicated to making sure I know what's going on in the competition.
Yeah.
I feel like I kind of seen like, I don't see Scaff as a father figure, but it's like kind of when I was younger, my dad would tell me things like, "Hey, bud, you should do this," and then I just be like, whatever. And then you realize as you get older, like,
Dad was right.
Holy shit, Dad was always right, which like gave me a good indication of like, oh, you should listen to people who know more about a subject than you do.
Yeah.
So like being able to work with Scaff, I feel like it helps me out a ton, seeing that like he knows what's going on, and the information he's given me, like he's really knowledgeable about it. So I think it helps out a ton having a coach long term and somebody who knows the game so well.
You think that an athlete can get, because there are some guys that appear to be self-coached to a point, right? Do you think that an athlete can become an elite, say top 5 in the world without a dedicated coach?
I feel like that's like a super hard question to answer. I think John Danaher talks about like he's never seen a diet make or break an athlete. He's seen world champions who eat McDonald's, and he's seen world champions who eat chicken and broccoli. And I feel like that kind of goes along with like there's a John Jones out there who doesn't have to show up to practice, who just is a freak. And like maybe he could be better, but he's just a freak of an athlete. I think for me, like the way that I can be the best athlete that I can be is with a coach. And for somebody else, that might be different. But I think for me, that's what I need.
Yeah. I think just from my own experience watching and kind of seeing the rise and fall of different athletes over time, the ones that seem to get to that extremely high level usually have some kind of presence or team that is just as dedicated as they are to what they're doing.
Yeah.
Which I think if you can find that, that's probably the perfect combination if you could find it.
Yeah, that's like the B team. Like they didn't have a real coach for real, but all of them are in there looking to do the same goal. So like they got guys in their corner with the same ideas, in
like-minded. Yeah, which is probably the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
You could have a coach who's got a great grappling mind, but if they're totally disinterested in your progress, it's probably not going to work out too well.
For sure. I mean, Scaff's like actively searching for stuff on YouTube that's going to help me with my game for the PGF, and then just like bring it in on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So
let's talk about PGF season 7. It's right around the corner. The thing that really stands out to me that separates the PGF from everything else is that it really is an Ironman. It really is a long distance, grueling race that you're involved in. And it seems like athletes that don't have that experience or haven't paid attention much to it, maybe they're pretty active competing everywhere else, they jump into it. They hit that first day pretty hard and they do pretty good. It's like, hey man, 3 matches, all right. They wake up on day 3, and the story starts changing, and you actually start seeing a shift in the points. Some guys that jumped out start to like level off, and other guys start ramping up. What is that like for you, and how do you prepare for that?
Yeah, I actually had like the same experience my first time. I had like mentioned in a podcast or I was talking to somebody, and I had just said like, oh, this is going to be easy. I do this every day. Like we at 10 Spine at Decatur, we don't really have like a fight camp. It's kind of just like we're always in fight camp.
Right.
And so, yeah, day 1, easy. Day 2, still pretty easy. Or I'm not saying easy like the competition was easy, just like getting through the day. 3 matches, not hard. 6 matches, not hard. Yeah, I woke up on day 3 and was like, yo, what the fuck? Like,
right.
When did this get so hard? Yeah, I think that a lot of people come into it, like you said, like, oh, 3 matches a day, that's nothing. 15 matches in a week, that's nothing. But, man, that shit wears on you for sure. I don't think that, like, there's a good way to, like, pace yourself through it. I think you better be training.
Mentally prepared.
Yeah, you just got to be the person who wins the PGF season is usually the dog, the guy who's just subbing everybody in 3 seconds, so he doesn't have a lot of mat time.
But that's hard to do at that level.
Yeah.
Like, you might get a couple guys with your shit, and then Jet Thompson was a perfect example in season 6. He busted out a couple ankle locks, and then those guys were all in the back, like, doing it on each other and figuring out how to work around it. So there's a lot of eyes on you, and they're seeing you multiple times. Is there? You tell me this: the first walkout for your first match, I would imagine the intensity level and the nerves and all that stuff is up pretty high. Does it recede a little bit on the second match or the third match of the night, or by day 3? Are you not quite as like in that nervousness space because you're kind of immersed in this now?
Yeah, I think especially the last PGF was super easy for me. I got to stay at my house, and then it was at like a local church, and then it's a promotion ran by my gym owner.
Yeah.
Or like the gym that I train at, he's the owner. He also owns this. So it was just like, oh shit, I'm just here. I'm supposed to be here.
It was very like familiar to you.
Yeah. So I don't think that I had lots of nerves going into it. Again, I just get nervous on my own because I want to win. So it seemed like the later in the tournament, the more nervous I got, just because I still wanted to win. Like,
interesting.
I was competing with Elijah for the points, and again,
it was a battle. Yeah.
And then like the finale was probably when I was the most nervous.
Yeah. There's so much writing on it at that point.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the intensity level will be up this time for you, given that it's in a studio in Las Vegas and there's a whole production built around it, and there's a bunch of fancy couches and dogs and people in nice outfits? And
I don't know, it might make me perform better because all these guys got money, and maybe they'll want to sponsor a young stud like me.
I mean, and I think that's a great thing to say, to be honest with you. What have you done, or do you think about that side of it, like how you want to promote yourself in interviews, and when you're, because when you're performing, and I do believe it's a performance, especially in the PGF. It's not just like going out and winning. You got to perform, right? There's a performance. But outside of that, every time a camera's in your face, there's an opportunity for you to tell your story in a different way than with your body on the mats. Do you put a lot of thought into that?
Yeah, I was just telling my girlfriend the other day that I think I'm gonna start trying to be the bad guy, just because like,
oh, he's going for the heel roll.
Yeah, it seems like that's what people want to see or don't want to see. Like, they want to see that guy lose. But I just don't really think that I could do that. I just, like, every time I get on the camera, try to be myself. Say a joke here or there, or just talk truthfully. I try to speak, like, everything I try to say, I try to make sure that it's the truth. I don't ever try to lie in any instance. I have no reason to lie. I have nothing to hide from anybody. So I think just being myself, it's got me here. You know? I feel like I have a likable personality for whatever reason. So, just being myself. And
I think that's the move. Somebody told me, you just take who you are, and when that light's on in front of you, you turn the dial up. You turn it up a little bit, and sometimes you got to turn it down. But most of the time, I think the spectators and the fans and the people that are watching are pulled in by authenticity. You just tell, like, hey, my dad's awesome. He makes me food, right? That's something that people go, oh man, that's pretty cool. If you force the villain thing, there's nothing worse than a fake villain. A fake villain is going to be hated by the people that like the good guys, and hated by the people. Maybe that is the best villain, actually. But I think, just being who you are, but turning it up is probably
Yeah.
the best. Always having a name in your mouth is not a bad idea. And it doesn't have to be disrespectful. There's lots of call outs that are disrespectful.
Yeah.
But it can be like, hey, man, what do you want to do next? Like, I really believe athletes should have, boom, not
Yeah.
like, whatever the promotion thinks. Nobody wants to hear that. The promotion doesn't know, man.
Yeah.
They're like, they fucking want to know,
Yeah.
They need someone to build heat for them. So
Yeah, for sure.
things like that, I think, are valuable.
I mean, that's interesting that you say that about like the fake villain or the fake baby face. Carl was telling me about how The Rock, when he first started in the WWF, I guess was back then, that they were trying to make him like the good guy, like a
Yeah.
baby or a heel. I mean, or the
Yeah,
other
they
way
were trying to
around.
make him a good guy.
A good guy, right?
Good guy, yeah.
And that's what ended up happening. That the fans hated him. Like he was just not being liked by anybody, and so eventually they just make him like this big asshole, which maybe was playing more to his personality than his good guy. I mean, we all kind of see him as a good guy now, like
Yeah.
in movies
Yeah.
and stuff, but maybe he's a real dick behind the scenes.
I think the ultimate move is when a bad guy becomes beloved by everybody.
Triple H
That's
back in the day.
That's the ultimate move.
Yeah.
That's the Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
tell we're big pro wrestling fans here. But that's the ultimate move, right? You get the people that hate you to love you, and you get the people that love you to love you. So
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Egg says Stephen Eakin will make sure Travis has chances to highlight himself on the mic. That's sure. And I didn't know what Egg was getting at here. He said, name in your mouth, what's up,
Kara.
Kara?
So, yeah, I think it was PGF season 3. When was the quintet? Was that 4, actually, when they did the women and the quintet?
I bet you Egg will tell us right now. 3 or 4.
There was a man, I don't know his name either. I'm bad with names, but one of the dudes there, the really country dude, I don't know. He had won a match, and
Yeah.
they gave him the mic, and Kara was his girlfriend, and he was like doing his after fight speech, and he's like, "What's up, Kara?" And then they made it. There you go, Matthew Boyle, season 3.
There you go. Egg with the women with season 4. He's got he knows all
Yeah,
of it.
dude.
I wanted to pull up the PGF roster and just walk through it for a second and see what we got here. So a few big names here. Actually, a lot of big names here. There's some tough competition. Interesting to see Fedor here from HQ.
Mm-hmm. This will be his black belt debut.
Black belt debut, which is my black belt debut was rough, dude. I was in the gi and I got murked by this guy so bad, man. Boy, Andre I can't remember how do you say his last name. Let's get the whole Porfidio.
Porfidio. Yeah.
Porfidio.
I'm pretty sure that he just competed at the Odyssey as well. He got subbed by Kevin Buren by heel hook.
Kevin Buren.
I think it could be a different guy, but that guy also had a rash guard that said Moses on it.
Oh, yeah, it could be the same guy. You might be right about that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get back to the roster, and it's not taking me. Yeah. I don't know why.
You broke
It's
it, Tim.
I broke it. Maybe I can hit the back button. It's odd to operate on this giant screen. Oh, there we go. Cam Hurd is returning from season 6. Nathan Haddad is from season 6. I think there will be a little bit, just not like a massive advantage, but there's a little bit advantage that these guys have been in that studio before. They know the layout. They know how it works. They know how
Yeah.
it feels. They've competed on that mat under
Right.
those particular lights, chandeliers.
I will say they competed against little guys, though.
Yeah, they were smaller.
Yeah.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Kyle Chambers, be interesting to see him in there. And then we got Davis Asare, who, is a tough up and coming athlete. Stuart Cooper, which for me was like Stuart Cooper is, I don't know if he's the first, but he was the videographer back in the day who was making these really cool jiu-jitsu shorts, maybe 10 to 20 minutes, maybe some longer.
Yeah.
Nobody was doing it like he was doing it. And
Yeah.
this was in 2008, maybe, like back in that time period. It was really cool to see. And he's really well known for making documentaries and being in the jiu-jitsu community in that capacity. But apparently he's pretty tough too. And I was surprised he told me at season 6, I'm going to be in season 7. And I thought he was joking. Because that's something I would say, like, yeah, I got a super fight coming up at the end of the night, you know. But I guess he really is going to be in season 7, so it'll be cool to see him. I wanted to get your feedback on the coaches. A couple OG legendary guys with Pedro Sauer's been around forever, super big in the Utah area and the surrounding areas. Got tons and tons of students, affiliates. Pretty much out there.
Yeah, if you want me to be honest, I know who none of those guys are.
Roger Gracie?
No.
Man.
I mean, I know that he's like related to Heather Gracie.
Yeah.
And then he's friends with Zoltan.
Yes.
And that's about it.
Roger is.
And I know he's a Gracie, and they have Gracie Baja.
Yeah. Yes, that is true. Roger is legendary in the gi specifically because he won worlds like, I don't know, 10 times or something.
Yeah.
And he did it with real basic, like, I'm going to sweep you and then I'm going to collar choke you. And
yeah.
He's a pretty good jiu-jitsu mind. He had a few MMA fights, which I think, you know, his style really wasn't geared for MMA. But he's a great jiu-jitsu mind. He's a pretty good coach. Wasn't super verbal on the mats in season 6, but behind the scenes, I guess he was pretty active in the practices.
Yeah.
A lot of good feedback about him. Pedro Sauer, I'm not sure in terms of like coaching style how hands-on he's going to be. I just don't know. I think Carlos Machado, which I don't see him in here, but I know he's a coach. I think he's going to be hands-on.
If you go to that first Roger Gracie, see, I don't even know how to say his name. It's like has all 4 of the coaches on there.
This one.
No, that's a video.
Oh, got you.
Oh, I guess that does too.
Oh, that's Dean. Now, there's Carlos Machado, pretty well-known member of the Machado family. The guy I was most impressed with was Dean Lister.
Yeah.
100%. He was super active in the matches, giving out on-point advice and super active behind the scenes. Dean's an 80cc veteran. He's fought. He's done everything. He's, you know, a great thinker, very articulate, very in tune with what it means to be an athlete in an event like this. He was just it was fun watching him and just seeing him give advice and seeing him interact with his athletes that event.
Yeah. I mean, any of them would be definitely super cool, right? I'm not like...
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't want any of these guys.
Yeah. They're, I think that they can be really helpful for sure, and it'd be cool to, you know, pick the mind of somebody who's been in the sport so long or who knows so much about it. But yeah, my coach is Matt Scaff.
Yeah, no, I feel you. 100%. Egg says that Roger, and I actually think he wants to be called Roger. Roger gave Matt Elkins some great mindset advice, and then Dean showed real passion for coaching, both the practices and during the matches. They did their practice at the facility, so the staff was able to watch him coach. He really cares. Yeah, Dean has always been a real. He's a good dude. I like Dean quite a lot, and he's always got something good to say about jiu-jitsu. Anything you ask him, he's just, how do you do this? Or what's your advice when you're in this spot? What's your advice in that spot? Except for armbar escapes. He's like, you don't have to, just let your elbow pop.
It's a rough one.
He's like, it's just like 3 pops. 3 pops, 6 weeks, you're fine. Like, I don't know. I don't know, Dean. Yeah, some legendary coaches. It's always interesting to see what happens because, as you mentioned, Matt Scaff is your coach. All these athletes got guys they train with, and then they show up for a week, and now this other guy's their coach.
Yeah.
And this other guy's setting the lineup, and he may be giving advice, maybe not giving advice. As an athlete, how are you going to make that decision on whether you're going to listen or not?
I mean, I most definitely will always take a helpful hint. So if we're
that smile on your face was like, I ain't gonna listen.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have a pretty good idea of how I'm gonna play the game. like the coaching that Scaff gives me, especially like in a match, is usually time and then just small details that like I could be missing. Like if I'm stuck in the mount and I'm like not thinking of grabbing an arm for a gift wrap or something, he will just like, hey, remember the left arm's available, instead of like just giving me a full detailed like, oh, this is what you should do, or screaming out moves that I should throw.
Yeah.
I'm not huge on somebody like the triangle's there. Like, okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. I don't want to do it.
Yeah. It's hard as a coach too, because sometimes you have to coach at multiple levels. So when you're coaching guys that are newer, you tend to have to help them a little bit, or maybe not. Sometimes you could overload them. I've been guilty of that for sure.
Yeah.
Over coaching, and then you step back and you go like, 80% of that was not necessary.
Yeah.
I think that's where you have to have this trust built in, at least in the training room, where I've done enough training with you and I've observed you enough and worked with you enough that I don't have to overcoach you.
Yeah. I think, like, obviously every athlete's different as well. Nakaya Jackson, she competes at 10th Planet Decatur. She's actually doing the Medusa for the Cancun thing. She likes a lot of coaching. She likes being told exactly what to do pretty much during the match. And then, like you said, I just think that comes from, like, Scaff spends a lot of time. So Scaff has, like, his own training schedule where he'll do his own rounds. And I don't think he drills much. But if he does, it's just, like, on his off time kind of.
Yeah.
So Mondays and Wednesdays, like I said, are our competition classes. And then a lot of Tuesday and Thursday nights, which are, like, the biggest classes for our jiu-jitsu rolling, he'll, like, stand on the cage and he'll watch a certain group of people, and then after your rounds he'll like throw some information at you like, hey man, whenever you're playing the guard, you're extending your arms too much, which is like creating openings, and like, yeah, while you might be making it work in here, like that's not going to work at the highest level.
I think that stuff is super useful too. Especially when it's fresh.
Yeah.
Right after you go through something.
Yeah, that's kind of when I was walking in here, you guys were talking about like the ecological training or drilling. I haven't been to a jiu-jitsu class and actually taken it. Well, me and my girlfriend did one like a week ago. But besides that, like actually going to drill and learn in a class, I probably haven't done in like a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
I usually just show up. Sometimes I'll show up to the class and listen. I like listening. I'm like very bad ADHD, and it's hard for me. I like pick up things super fast. Like I could watch a move on Instagram. The J-Rod back take that he did, I literally watched the YouTube video on the way here to Triangle and then hit it that night. And it's just like I move my body well enough that like I could see something and then do it.
What other sport? Did you play any other sports besides baseball?
I played baseball and then football. I played like high school football, college football, and then a year of arena football. And then I did cheerleading in college as well.
So I would assume, and I think this is actually a big challenge for a lot of people, your brain and your body are wired up pretty well, where you can see it and your brain can already translate that into like Whereas some people are like
I mean, I've started teaching a bunch more classes now, and it's funny to say like, hey, put your left hand on your hip, and then people will like hand on their head, and you're like, hey.
It's hard. It's hard, man.
It's super hard.
You realize like, some people, it's just not together.
Yeah.
They haven't stressed their body in that manner.
Yeah.
I think I've come around more to this idea that there's kind of like two things people need to learn. In the beginning, if they have no grappling experience, they're just Joe Blow off the street, wants something to do a couple times a week. There's some mechanical things that they have to kind of practice. There's a lot of odd things in jiu-jitsu that are just like, you just don't, they're not natural body movements. You don't do them all the time, So you may have a traditional style class where you're focusing on a technique and you're kind of like, hey, we're not going to put you under any duress when you practice this because you're so raw. There's no duress we can put on you that's going to help you too much. So we're just going to you're going to walk through these moves, or we're going to look at this new idea mechanically. We're going to read the blueprint first. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then when we're familiar enough with it, then we're going to go start working on it. And I think, that's where the ecological drills come in. Yeah. You have some kind of physical duress where you're putting pressure in the sense that this person's putting physical weight on you, and they're also competing against your goal.
Yeah.
Whatever your goal is, they have a goal too. So you're both kind of going at, which totally changes the complexion of a move. I could show you an arm bar and we could drill it with no resistance, especially like an arm bar from guard. That gets showed a lot. Like, oh, first day thing. It's super hard to do when somebody's like posturing and resisting you.
Pulling their arm back.
It's not easy at all, right?
Yeah.
So I think it takes both modalities.
Yeah.
Jiu-Jitsu has suffered for a long time of teaching refinement too early.
Yeah.
So that a bunch of people are in class and the coach shows a move that has 27 steps and he wants you to do every fucking single one exactly like he showed you. And then you spend an hour and a half doing that. And the students aren't ready for that level. They don't need it. It's not necessary at that point.
Yeah, Brandon said something that stuck with me pretty early on. He was talking about like doing these moves, and I had realized that like the move we were doing in class, I did pretty often, and I just did it a different way. And like I always got a good result. I always got a good result out of it, but like I wasn't walking through the steps that he was taking. And then he had told me like, well, the way that I look at jiu-jitsu is kind of like walking your kid across the street to get mail. The first couple of times you do it, you hold their hand and you look across the street 4 or 5 times to make sure no car's coming. He's like, and then the next time you do it, you look once or twice, and then you don't really look, but you are already looking until eventually you're running across the street and you've already looked back and forth while you were walking through the yard. Yeah. And so like basically like there is a way to do jiu-jitsu, and for like a normal person in a class, they do want these steps. But in all reality, if you could get to this move, however you get to the move, then that's how you should do it. If you could mentally tell somebody to move and they give you your back, well, then that's what you should do. You shouldn't have to make a front. Yeah. Yeah. So that stuck with me really early. And then back to like what I was saying, that I just roll. It's not like I just roll and then go home. Like I'm actively searching for like the things that are working and aren't working, and then I'll take these ideas and then I'll talk to Scaff, and then we'll talk about what's going on, and then we'll break it down to a smaller, because like I said, like me in a classroom setting isn't good. I got kicked out of tons of classrooms in college, you know,
where I jiu-jitsu class.
No, in college,
take a walk, Travis,
where I paid for school and they were like, hey, you're gonna have to get out of here, you're talking too much, just because like I'm once I get the information, I'm like, shit, let's do it. Yeah. Well, what are we waiting around for?
Yeah, I definitely think there's something to that, and there's something to, you know, this technique has 4 steps or 5 steps, and one of them is non-negotiable. If you don't do that, then it's not that technique anymore. Correct. It's the rest are like, I grab it this way, you grab it that way. Do whatever works for you, and then if you hit a problem, then come talk to me and we'll see if we could solve that problem. And then they never forget it because it's a problem they actually had, versus I'm going to give you these 5 steps and I'm going to make you all do them this way. And maybe they are solving problems, but if they don't know that they have that problem, they're not going to remember that, right? People remember solutions to things that are actually impacting them.
Things that actually get fixed.
Yeah. That's why preventative medicine is rarely practiced by anybody, because people don't like to fix things that aren't broken. Yeah. And they don't remember, they don't care, it doesn't have value. Yeah. So I think there definitely is value in that. And also, you know, we're just moving our bodies, man. Yeah.
And I will say, like, there's obviously 2 types of people. I mean, I talk about my girlfriend all the time, if you guys haven't noticed yet. But my girlfriend is the opposite of me. Like, she would love for you to tell her exactly how to move her body and exactly step by step how this is affecting the body. And like, oh, am I doing this exactly correct? To where like, I just want to see you do it. Just let me see you do it, and then I'll just do it in live training. And then if I have a problem, I'll ask you like, hey, this is where I'm running into an issue, and then I'll go do it again.
When you buy a dresser at IKEA and you bring it home, do you read the instructions, or do you just?
That's something that I'm really not good, and that might be why. I will try to read the instructions, and I don't do good at it. I think I would.
You peruse it. Yeah. You're like, I get it.
I would do better making my own dresser.
Okay.
Like buying wood and then cutting it myself.
It makes sense, though.
Yeah. It's like any kind of instruction, I'm like, fuck that.
I think real maturity is recognizing what kind of person you are and accepting it for what it is. And if there's things you can change or tighten up, or maybe like, hey, I fall into this trap, so I got to mitigate it. I got to make sure that I have That's just maturity. It's not like I'm going to change myself to be exactly like this other person that I think is doing it right.
And that's what
not
I
it.
that's what I think about my training is like some people will be like, dude, you could be so much better if you would just drill. And it's like, yeah, that's super possible, but also how does that make me feel? Like, I love what I do. Is it going to now feel like I'm being tortured to sit in a class for an hour and a half and just listen to this guy talk? And, and maybe he's not even talking about jiu-jitsu for a little bit. He's, like, telling a joke. And I just think that's pointless. Like, I don't want to hear your joke.
Yeah.
I came to train.
Yeah.
I would like to train.
I think if you approach sparring or live rolling with a goal in mind, where it's goal-oriented or it's work-oriented, and then you try to achieve those things, and then, like you say, you break down what happened afterward. Those are live reps.
Yeah.
Those are the best reps. That is drilling.
Yeah.
But you're drilling with all the bad things that could happen in a real match, which is why it's so hard to do jiu-jitsu in the first place.
Yeah. When I come to an open mat, it's usually just, whatever, sit guard, just play, let somebody pass my guard. Yeah. But, yeah, like, excuse me, especially Tuesday and Thursday nights, there's a reason that I'm doing what I'm doing. It's like whether it's like allowing somebody to entangle my legs and then looking at all the options to get out, or like running the sequence of passing guard and getting him out, and just whatever it is, there is a goal. And it might not be like, oh, I need to hit 2 arm bars today, but there is something that's going on.
Something you're working on.
And in the competition class, he's like done to where we have like a monthly goal. So, like, the first month it was how many times you can get people's arms above their head and, like, hold it for a certain amount of time. The next month was outside passing. I can't remember the exact goal. But this month is, like, how many takedowns or wrestle-ups can you get? And then at the end of the month, whoever has – like, we keep a whiteboard.
We keep a tally. Nice.
Yeah, whoever has the most gets, like, a $40 gift card to somewhere.
Ooh.
Yeah. I don't think that I'm necessarily, like, eligible for it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm a little bit of a coach, too, in the class.
Yeah. You're like the employee that wins all the contests.
Yeah, so I feel like it wouldn't be fair.
Your name's always at the top of the board.
Yeah.
Does that work as a motivator? You feel like that helps?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like losing in anything.
Highly competitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. All the things you're saying, it makes sense, like your approach to it. And you seem like you know yourself pretty well.
I've had to do a lot of growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've put myself in some pretty shitty situations. Yeah. So,
I mean, some people deal with the shit like in a big event, and then some people stretch it out over 30 years. But either way, you got to deal with the shit.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I feel you. Let's talk for a couple minutes about the challenges of becoming a professional athlete in a sport that's not completely professionalized yet.
Yeah.
What is there something in your mind that delineates between professional and non-professional? Like, if I do this, I'm professional, or if an athlete does X, Y, Z, then that means they're professional.
Yeah, I think like a lot of the athletes in the sport are pretty unprofessional because it's kind of like it is a solo sport, do your own thing. And like we see it as where a competition tells you to show up for weigh-ins at 3:00 and no later, and then you got people rolling in at 4:30, and then it's kind of just like, it's just a jiu-jitsu event.
Right.
And that seems like very unprofessional to me.
Yeah.
Or like people who don't train if they don't have something coming up because they don't feel like they have to. I feel like that's unprofessional. I think that's like what's going to make our sport really professional or not. Like there's not like, okay, while the coaches in the NFL team are telling their guys what to do for practice, and like they give them guidelines.
Yeah.
Like those guys, I don't think I could be way wrong, but I don't feel like those coaches are calling their players every morning like, hey, did you work out today? Like, are you eating your food? Like, no, that's your job.
Yeah.
And obviously we don't get paid for it, so it's a little bit different. But like, if we want to get paid, then we have to make that push. Like sometimes you got to fake it until you make it. You got to act like we're getting paid. You got to show up. Like if there's a press conference and they want you to look decent, then don't wear sweatpants and a sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Like wear something decent. If you don't have enough money to get something nice, well then just wear something nicer than sweatpants. Like,
right.
yeah, we're going to have to like make a push for it to actually be something that people want to watch. Also, like if we're doing an exciting tournament, nobody wants to see somebody sit there and just like scoot around on their butt and not implement a game. Like sometimes you're going to have to put yourself in some trouble to make something happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if that totally answered the question.
It does. I think it tackles one big aspect of it, which I think you're correct in that not everybody approaches it like they're a professional athlete, except and I think this is across the board beyond jiu-jitsu with many sports and art performance-based things. They want to be treated like a professional athlete.
Yeah.
Like, hey, which is fine. I get it. You shouldn't have to sleep in a hammock.
Yeah.
You really shouldn't. You shouldn't. You're
Yeah.
going to fight for a promotion. Like, you
Yeah.
know. But at the same time, I've heard guys complain like, this room wasn't good enough. This food wasn't good enough. And it's like, okay, we get it, but you didn't even show up on time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you wore a T-shirt with the middle finger on it, like
Yeah.
to the press conference.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. I think everybody has to make a push. Everyone has to try to be more professional at it. Everyone who's involved.
It's like I would say it's the promoter's fault as well, and like I'm not pushing any blame on it's everybody's fault as a whole. But like last night they had the CFC, I think it is in Huntsville, and it was like, and this is why I struggle doing MMA anymore because they asked me to do this promotion. So they started off their fights last night. They had the first 2 fights, and then the commission canceled the fights because there was no doctor and there was no ambulance. So the first 4 people who fought all got suspended for a year.
Oh.
And then everybody else on the card didn't get to fight.
Did those people know that they were going to be suspended?
I have no clue.
Oh, and are they going to get fined?
Oh, probably. And my thing is like, how the fuck as a promoter how does that happen? Like your only objective as the promoter, especially if you have somebody who's doing your matchmaking, is to make sure that the show goes on.
Right.
How do we run the show? We make sure all the athletes get there. We make sure there's a doctor. We make sure the commission's involved.
Yeah.
And like, while, okay, that might be difficult, you're the one taking on the task. And
then don't do it.
yeah, it would be like a jiu-jitsu coach. Somebody's like, dude, all your students suck. And he's like, well, it's not my fault. It's like, yes, it is. You're not teaching.
Yeah, right.
Like, it is all your fault. I know you own the gym. This is your job.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a big problem at the promotional level. And unfortunately, promoters across the board there's a huge variety in the level of professionalism you get out of a promoter. Yeah. I worry that a lot of promoters are into the image of I'm a promoter, which means I'm cool and I fucking get to hang out with the cool guys and do cool stuff. But I don't think that's what a real promoter is doing. A real promoter is making sure that event and the people that are organizing and performing for that event, that they're succeeding, that they're put in a position to succeed, that the audience is getting a product that they like. That's what a promoter's job is. Yeah. I've seen guys, I've been at local fights back in Stockton where they pulled a guy in that was walking around outside. They were just looking for people that needed to take a fight. He fought and his hands weren't wrapped. He just put the gloves on and he went and fought. And he got his ass kicked.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
It was crazy. And these guys, these other dudes, they were all willing to do it. We'll give you $300. Like, dude, this is not the way to be professional.
Yeah.
Like, don't throw an event and promote it if you're going to do it like that. Do that in your backyard, man.
Yeah, bro. I would have been so pissed if I accepted that and cut down to 185 pounds and then showed up and then my fight got canceled. It's crazy.
Or if you would have fought and then gotten suspended for it, gotten a fine, that would have sucked. Because it doesn't sound like the promoter's going to pay the fines.
No,
probably not.
No.
Based on
his previous actions.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I feel like I've been trying to make my pro debut since right before PGF season 5. That's was the goal. I had 6 amateur fights. I was number 1 in the Southeast. I was feeling pretty good. Wanted to make my pro debut and signed a couple contracts to fight people, and then they just pulled out. And then Brandon had told me dude, if you do the PGF, you're gonna make more money in that than you will in a pro debut.
Yeah.
And then I did that, and then after that, then I was able to do the combat jiu-jitsu qualifier. Then I was able to do subversive, and then all these other things started popping up. And then MMA is just fuck. If somebody wants to give me $5,000 to show, I told Karate Combat, if y'all want to, I'll do jiu-jitsu or MMA or karate, whatever it is. I'm down to fight. You know, it's not worth it, especially like, I mean, Christian Eccles had just the same thing happen. He cut weight for his fight, and he was overweight. So, like, he really had to cut weight, really went through it, showed up to the fight 4 hours before the fight. Dude's like, yeah, I'm not coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's pretty insane.
I think you can be a professional in jiu-jitsu right now. Anybody actually can if they just start operating like a professional.
Yeah.
The bar isn't so high that you can't
It's not all these gatekeepers.
get on the stage.
Yeah.
You can get on the stage. In fact, great athletes that have a great professional approach to it are refreshing to work with.
Yeah.
From the promoter standpoint, from my standpoint, if I have to interview somebody or talk to somebody, it's great to talk to people and work with people that are approaching it like a professional.
Yeah.
It just makes the whole thing go better.
Yeah.
And all people have to do is decide that that's what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And they just do it. And then you are.
Yeah. Earlier, we were talking about the nicotine thing, and I think that was kind of like,
Oh, yeah.
that was kind of like the influence as well. It was obviously like, I wanted to see if it would mess with my cardio, because I had said, like, I've been vaping. So I started smoking cigarettes, and then I started vaping, and I've been doing them. I quit smoking cigarettes when I started vaping, but I had vaped for probably 10, 11 years. And then just one day, me and my girlfriend were talking, and I was just like, damn, I think I want to try to quit vaping. And she was like, why? And I was, same thing. Like, yeah, if I'm doing this well in the cardio classes now, like, what will it be if I quit smoking? And it might not be anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just going to do it for 3 months and then see, like, what that does. And then when I gave it up, I realized, like, holy shit, I'm super addicted to this. Because I thought about just doing, like, the Zins or, like, switching to another source. But I was like, dude, I'm so fucking addicted that I can't. If I switch to something else, then it's, like, just kind of not.
You're just covering it up.
Yeah. And I will say, like, it hasn't done much to my, like, max cardio. Like, there's not much more I could do.
You're like, don't quit.
Yeah. But I will say that, like, recovery is a lot quicker. So, like, in between rounds and stuff like that. But that was like, also part of it, like, Scaff, I get, like, all these little bits that just stick with me. Scaff said something when I first started training, was like, the difference between a good athlete and a great athlete is the small things. It's never like the difference between me and Gordon Ryan isn't some huge gap.
Right.
Like, it's just, like, very small things that he does, whether that's, like, a small technique or a small discipline in his life. And, like, I felt like this was one. Like, this is a very small thing that I can give up that I think is going to put me way above. And I feel like that's around this time that I started gaining weight too. Because, like, nicotine is an appetite suppressant.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So, like, once I stopped, I just started eating a ton. Also, the diet that I've been on. So,
how difficult was it to stop?
I mean, it's just an active choice to say no. It's kind of like what you hear in NA and AA. Like, it's just every day you have to say no. I still want to vape. There's still plenty of times that I'm like, damn, it would be nice to, like, hit a vape. Or especially, like, right before competition. I know that sounds crazy, but it's, like, super nerve chilling, you know?
Yeah,
like,
no, I
I'm
understand.
super,
I get
like,
it,
freaked out. I used to, before MMA fights, just be, like, sitting back there vaping, and it's, like, just something that I could do by myself to calm myself down. So, like, I still actively have to choose every day not to do it, but I think it's also pretty badass that I can do that, and I think people see it badass too.
I think so. And you said it's a small thing, but not really. Like, nicotine's really difficult for people to stop. Yeah. And that kind of discipline, one of the worst things you could do, and I say this to the students from time to time, is to step on a mat to compete, and then your mind knows you didn't do everything that you could have done to get ready. Yeah. You kind of, like, half-assed it or blew some stuff off. I imagine when you're preparing and you step on the mat and you go, I fucking gave up nicotine for this. Yeah. Like, that's empowering. And then when you go to change your diet or you have some other thing that you want to work on to be more disciplined in, you can draw from that. Because, like you said, like, actively saying no, choosing that is a powerful... Yeah. It's intoxicating, actually, when you start doing the things that you want to do. When you actually start doing them, it's intoxicating in a good way, where you start realizing, what else can I do? Like, I could influence a large aspect of my life.
Yeah, I think something to keep in mind too is, like, everybody says, like, it could always be worse. I think, like, you should always think too, for, like, ego purposes, like, it could always be better.
Yeah.
So, like, why I did stop vaping or stop nicotine completely. Like, my buddy, shout out to my buddy Ty. No, I mean, he doesn't do think he just works. You know, he's just a really good friend. But like
Yeah.
he actually just quit cold turkey drinking and doing cocaine. And so like, yeah, it's super cool that I quit vaping. But like, there's somebody that's doing way
Yeah.
cooler things than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which just kind of like keeps me in check. You know, just like a little
Yeah.
balance for myself. And then also like, when I sit here and think like, shit, dude, it fucking sucks that I do a sport that I make no money at. Well, there's also people that like don't have their dad to cook them food.
Yeah.
You know, so
Right.
like I'm pretty blessed to be where I'm at. But that's just a little insight for you guys.
Yeah, yeah. I think having like a baseline of gratitude that where you at least can appreciate what you do have while also acknowledging there's things that you would really like to accomplish.
Yeah.
You talked about getting paid. How hard is it to get paid in jiu-jitsu?
I mean, if you're winning, it's not as difficult, right? Because there's like I've done like a $10,000 tournament, a couple $1,600 tournaments, a couple $5,000 tournaments, but like second place doesn't pay, and that's like mostly where I end. Like second to fourth place is usually where I've been ending up, so like that's pretty difficult. And then especially like sponsorship wise, so like when I was doing MMA, and like I'm fighting dudes that have like no meaningful accolades on anything, everybody was just like, fuck yeah, you're crazy, you're a warrior, I want to give you some money.
Yeah.
And then you start doing jiu-jitsu and people are kind of like,
What did you do?
yeah, like you guys are wrestling.
What do you got
Cool.
for me? Yeah.
So I think like sponsorship wise, especially if you don't have like a huge following and like you're not doing a lot of camera work, is pretty difficult. And then again, just like winning, but like again, I'm super young in this sport. I've only been training, like I said, for 3.5 years. It's just gonna take a little bit of time. I think we think right around the 7-year mark is when I'm gonna be running this shit for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're putting reps in.
Yeah.
You're putting them in.
Yeah.
Yeah. One last question, man, and then we'll jump off here. And this is from first Egg said. Egg is such a kind individual.
Yeah.
By the way, if you're in San Diego area, I have a guest room, brother. I got you, Travis.
Heck yeah, dude.
Hey.
I want to sleep on your new bed.
Yeah, you make Nolan sleep outside. In the
Yeah.
hammock.
Yeah, for
He
sure.
called me brother, not you.
Yeah.
Egg said, "Who does Travis think is the top 3 to 5 going into PGF season 7?"
I think there's a couple different factors that are going to play into this season. Like I was saying earlier, the weight's going to be a thing. I think a couple of the guys are a little small for the weight class. Like Kyle Chambers usually cuts to 170. Not saying that he can't get up to 205, but like cutting to 205 and being 205 are two different things. I would say I think Braylor Grout is super good. And again, I don't really know people. I don't really watch. Like if I watch jiu-jitsu, I look up one move that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Or I'll watch an event with my girlfriend and she knows everybody.
Do you think there's a favorite in here? I mean, you could say yourself too if you.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I'm just.
That's
I'm leading you to
yeah.
that. Like, hey, man.
I 100% think that I think these guys are going to have a lot of problems with me. I think that, again, I'm young. I haven't done a lot of things. I don't have a lot of accolades for them to go look up. But just like season 5, it was kind of like everybody's like, oh, this guy's super overpaid. And then I had the most submissions and the most different submissions. Like I think that I bring a full game. I can wrestle. I could play top. I can play bottom. Leg locks have been something that I've been working on a lot. It's for sure. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and oh, definitely I'm a great leg locker now. It's something that I actively have to work on, but it's for sure getting better. But I would say Braylor Grout, Ryan Aiken, Kyle Bain, or Bone, however you say his name.
Yeah, Bame. Yeah.
And then probably Paul Ardilla.
Yeah, he's tough, dude.
I just think that those guys are the right size, the right athleticism, and then they have the right game plans for the game. Again, I don't know Stewart. I've seen Adam Bradley. He competed on CJI, and I seen him at ADCC. I think Kyle Chambers is all right. I've had a match with him for the combat jiu-jitsu qualifier. I feel like I smashed him during the regulation, and then he beat me in overtime. I've had a match with Fedor. I beat him. I think Cam Hurd's very exciting. I texted him as soon as I seen that he was on the card and was like, oh, we're going to have a fucking banger of a match.
I really like Cam Hurd.
Yeah,
he's also another guy that's real
super cool dude.
real cool to work with.
If me and him get on opposite teams and we have a match, I promise you that's going to be the most exciting
gonna be
match.
fireworks.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna reference back to that. I'm
Yeah.
gonna say Travis told me
Yeah.
this was gonna happen.
Yeah, and then again, I just don't I don't know many of these people. If that Moses dude is the dude I seen at Odyssey, I think that he has a pretty tough time. Yeah, but I would say me number 1, Ryan Aiken number 2, Braylor Grout number 3, Paul Ardilla number 4, and then I only got 4.
He's like, the rest of them are going to have to fight. For
Rest of them suck. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, everybody in the season is, I feel like they're definitely willing to, like, they should be there.
Yeah. Egg said, just putting it on record, I'm 1-0 against Travis, and I'm retired from that match.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he hit me with like Americana or something lame when I was a blue belt.
Oh, and then he follows up with Paul Ardilla is my favorite. No disrespect. How dare you, Egg? How dare you?
That's okay. While I don't hold the handsome belt because Kevin beat me for that, we all know. And Paul Ardilla is trying to do the same. We all know, dude.
Travis, thanks so much for coming on this morning, man. Can you tell the listeners and the viewers how they can find out more about you?
Yeah, I'm _the Mantis on all my social media, like Facebook, or I guess Facebook's just my name, but Instagram and YouTube is _the Mantis. Me and Scaff have a Patreon called Scaff and the Mantis, to where he like breaks down jiu-jitsu. We do live rolls, and then I also do a podcast. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for having me, man. I super enjoyed it.
It's awesome, dude. I'm really happy for you, man.
Yeah, man.
I'm glad to see you out there doing it. I want to give Matt Scaff some love too, because I really like Matt Scaff, dude. He's a good dude. He's got the Grappling Discourse podcast.
Correct.
If you guys want to hear his wild thoughts. So yeah, man. Thanks you guys for listening. Have a great Sunday. We will catch you next time.